Now, what I want to do to get the ball rolling with this show and to really set the tone for what we're going to talk about is play a clip of Dr. Claude Anderson that I've played before. Many of you have already seen this before, but it's very necessary because, like I said, this is going to set the tone of the show. So let me play this for you real quick, and then we're going to get into the meat and the heart of this discussion.
You're going to have an unending influx of immigrants into the country. And that's what Dr. Price is talking about. And nobody, no black politician, no black organization wants to deal with that issue. They will avoid it at all costs, even though in their hearts they know that's one of the biggest problems for black folk. We anticipate in the next 10 to 12 years approximately 8 to 6 million Hispanics coming into the United States and 41 million Asians. You have been the majority minority for 400 years in this country. You have been the number 2 population for 400 years. You're going to get kicked out of being number 2. You're going to go down and become number 4. Now, common sense, even a 3rd grade education would tell you, if you didn't get anything when you were number 2, you all jumped ahead of me, but anyway, you can guess what you're going to get when you become number 4. And the worst part about it is as you descend and go down to number 4, those other groups are going to go up. And as they go past you, you're going to have major racial clashes in this country. You're going to have fights all over this country between blacks and Hispanics, blacks and Asians, blacks and poor whites. And black folk cannot fight all these groups. Everybody can not always be against black folk. They know that we are vulnerable and we are defenseless. And we cannot fight those groups.
Now, what I want to do is that I want to clarify, at least in my opinion, what I feel Dr. Claude Anderson is talking about when he's saying there's going to be major clashes across America with black folks and other groups. Me personally, I don't feel that he's talking about physical clashes and violence or anything of that nature, but I do believe that what he's talking about and what I'm going to show to you right now is that he means clashes as it pertains to politics, political and economic violence, right? So now I want to show you this very quickly. So let's get into it. I made this video, I believe, sometime back in 2019. It's called Chinese Immigrants Attempt to Block Affirmative Action in Washington State. And that video that I made back in 2019 was based off this article that's in front of you right now, which says, Washington voters narrowly rejecting affirmative action in referendum 88. Okay, so this affirmative action measure in Washington State was shut down and spearheaded by Asian immigrants in the United States of America. Now, when we come forward to this article that I've touched on before, many of you are also aware of, and if you're curious to why I have certain things redacted, I don't like to say the word or even show the word. It rhymes with 2019, you know, the health situation that we're dealing with. So that's what's redacted. But the article states a blank relief fund was only for black residents. Then came the lawsuits. And you can see on the bottom, Oregon earmarked $62 million to explicitly benefit black individuals and business owners. Now some of the money is in limbo after lawsuits alleging racial discrimination. Now let's go on to read a little bit of this article. And it goes on to state this, okay? Support of the fund, support for the fund argued that the $62 million accounted for about 4.5% of what the state received, leaving plenty for residents who are not black. They also noted that other blank-related funds were tolerated in a way that allowed them to almost exclusively benefit particularly racial or ethnic groups. $10 million fund was created by the state to largely benefit undocumented Latino immigrants, and one created by Portland officials to aid a district of largely Asian-owned businesses. Now, for those who are unaware, this lawsuit came about by way of a Hispanic male and a white man. A Hispanic male and a white man is who sued the state in order to block those funds from getting to the Black community and Black businesses, despite the fact that in that very state, as they just laid out here in this article, you had funds that was going specifically to Asian Americans. You had funds that were going specifically to undocumented Latino immigrants. But all of a sudden, when it's time to break bread with Black Americans, now there's a problem and we have to shut it down. Now, I also want to bring this up to you as well. See, we're going to drill all this stuff home because I don't just get up here and talk. I prove that what I'm saying is true. So let me bring this next article up for you right now. Give me just a moment. Where are we at? I believe it is this here. Okay. Now, here's the article that I want to bring to you right now. Some of you are familiar with this already. Some of you may not be, but this is an insider article that states Chinese Americans poured more than $80,000 into a Proud Boy crowdfunder before January 6th insurrection. Now, let's read a little bit of this article, right? The far-right group Proud Boys allegedly received more than $80,000 in donation from Chinese Americans and the broader Chinese diaspora a month before the Capitol riot, according to a report by USA Today. The money was sent as part of a crowdfunding effort to help the Proud Boys pay for medical expenses after 4 people were stabbed in Washington, D.C. in December of 2020 during a confrontation with Black Lives Matter protesters. Officials did not comment on which group the injured individuals belonged to at the time. I want to repeat that again, because when they were donating to the Proud Boys, officials did not comment on which group of injured individuals belonged to at the time. They didn't know who got hurt. Okay, nobody knew who got hurt. They don't know if it was Proud Boys or if it was Black Lives Matter. So you can't say that you were giving all this money to the Proud Boys because they were getting hurt. You didn't know who got hurt. You were sending money to the Proud Boys because you line up with their ideology. Now let's keep reading. The fundraiser was set up on the Christian fundraising site Give, Send, Go on December 17th, 5 days after the incident. The crowdfunding effort raised a total of $106,000, 80% of which came from American Asians and the broader Chinese diaspora. I repeat, the crowdfunding effort raised a total of $106,000, 80% of which came from American Asians and the broader Chinese diaspora, according to USA Today, which obtained the data from the whistleblower site Distributed Denial of Secrets. The investigation tracked some donations to addresses in China, Hong Kong, and Taiwan. Okay? I'm going to repeat that again. I don't like being redundant and repeating the same stuff over again, but that's important. The investigation tracked some donations to addresses in China, Hong Kong, and Taiwan. Now let's keep moving forward, okay? Because I want to get into quite a few things today. Now, let's come over here. And this article right here, let me go ahead and highlight this quickly so I don't lose that place, okay? But this right here is called Key Facts About Asian Americans and a Diverse and Growing Population. Okay. Now, I want you to pay attention to this right here. Around 6 in 10 Asian Americans, 57%, including 71% of Asian American adults, were born in another country. Over half of the Asian population that's in the United States right now was born in another country. Okay. Now let's keep going forward. This is another article from Pew Research. And let me highlight this so I don't lose that portion. This article from Pew Research Center is called Asian Americans Are the Fastest Growing Racial or Ethnic Group in the U.S. Electorate. Okay. Now let's scroll down, and what you'll see is Asian Americans are the fastest growing segment of eligible voters out of the major racial and ethnic groups in the United States. More than 11 million will be able to vote this year, making up nearly 5% of the nation's eligible voters. They are also the only major racial or ethnic group in which naturalized citizens, rather than US born, make up the majority of eligible voters, according to Pew Research Center analysis of Census Bureau data. What they're saying is that amongst the Asian population, over half of those who are voting in US elections were born in other countries and eventually became citizens, okay? Over half of their electorate are not from the United States. Now, what I want to do, because we just went over the AAPI community and we're establishing their political dominance as more of them are coming into the country, okay? And we're also establishing right now, these are all the folks that are, quote, legal. What I want to do now is go into those who are undocumented, okay? And it wasn't too long ago when I was speaking on undocumented immigrants, when I was talking about the fact that I believe that there are significantly more undocumented immigrants than the 11 million number that's always brought up. I always felt that was a lowball number. And then after I made that statement, a brother on Instagram sent me this article, which confirms my suspicion about that. That 11 million was a lowball number. So now let's get into that. Yale study finds twice as many undocumented immigrants as previous estimates, okay? Generally accepted estimates put the population of undocumented immigrants in the United States at approximately 11.3 million. A new study using mathematical modeling on a range of demographics and immigration operations data suggests that the actual undocumented immigrant population may be more than 22 million. Okay, let's carry on. Immigration is the force of fierce political policy debate in the United States. Among the most contentious issue is how the country should address undocumented immigrants. Like a tornado that won't dissipate, arguments have spun around and around for years. At the center lies a fairly stable and largely unquestioned number: 11.3 million undocumented immigrants residing in the United States. But a paper by three Yale-affiliated researchers suggests all the perceptions and arguments based on that number may have a faulty foundation. The actual population of undocumented immigrants residing in the country is much larger than that, perhaps twice as high, and has been underestimated for decades. Using mathematical modeling on a range of demographics and immigration operations data, the researchers estimate that there are 22.1 million undocumented immigrants in the United States. Even using parameters intentionally aimed at producing an extremely conservative estimate, they found a population of 16.7 million undocumented immigrants. Now, what I want you to understand as I'm bringing this forth to you, right, is that the majority of these undocumented immigrants, 75% to be exact, are Hispanic, right? Now, I'm going to prove that to you right now. And where you can find this information at is right here on Migration Policy Institute. And if you want to know if the Migration Policy Institute is credible and where I got that from, well, then you can just come over here. My apologies, brothers and sisters. Give me just a second. I need to tell my son to be quiet. He's really loud and it's disturbing me. I'm sorry. Give me a second. My apologies. I had to tell my son, tone that down. You know, he's playing Fortnite, he's wilding out, screaming and yelling, and it's throwing me off. But let's get back to the swing of things, okay? I want you guys to know that this is a credible site. And where I got that from is actually, or I'm getting this from is actually Joe Biden's website right here, okay? So when you come to Joe Biden's website, as you can see, joebiden.com/immigration, you come to this portion that says modernize America's immigration system. Then right here, you'll see a highlight. You'll see a little kind of a highlighted section. If you click on that, it'll take you right to that page. Okay, so this is very credible information that we're discussing right now, pertaining 75% of Hispanics being that of those who are undocumented. All right. Now, as you can see here, according to this website, 10,977,000 undocumented immigrants are in the United States, right? And we all know that that's a lowball number, an extremely lowball number. Many of us already knew that before it was proven via the Yale research study. And if you come over here to regions of birth, you see 68% come from Mexico and Central America, and 7% come from South America. So that makes 75%. Now, why is that relevant, right? Why am I bringing this up? Well, the reason that that's relevant is because for those of you who didn't know, right? And of course, it's not, nothing is ever highlighted when I need it to be highlighted. Let me find the highlighted portion that I'm looking for. Here it goes. The reason that that's relevant concerning how many Hispanics are undocumented immigrants is because right here, according to this article, which I'll show you right now, this article is called "What is a White Hispanic?" from the Huffington Post. And you scroll down right here and you see, according to the 2010 US Census, 53% of Hispanics choose white as their race, while 36% choose some other race, okay? And you see this number verified once again here in the Pew Research website right here. It goes, by comparison, on the 2010 census form, 53% of Hispanics checked white, okay? 53%, over half of the Hispanic population identifies with being white, all right? So now let's just do a little quick math. And if you know, I did a little pre-math because your boy's not good at math like that. Now, if we're taking into consideration the fact that according to the Yale study, right, there aren't 11 million undocumented immigrants in the country. There are actually 22 million. Well, 75% of 22 million is 16,500,000 Hispanics, okay? Now, what is half of that? If over half, 53% of Hispanics identify as being white, then 53% of 16,500,000 is 8,745,000 white Hispanics, okay? That's what that comes out to. And the reality is concerning that is that those numbers are going to grow. We're not just going to be stuck there at that point. Let me put this camera back on me. The numbers are actually going to grow. So let me play this clip for you right now. It's from, I believe it's a Republican senator. I forgot what his name is, but to be honest, his name is irrelevant. It's a Republican senator who is discussing the wave of immigration, undocumented immigration that's happening at the border right now. And what he has to say is pretty interesting because it just goes to show these numbers are just going to go up and up and up and up. Doesn't matter if it's 22 million or the conservative estimate that Yale made of 16 million. It doesn't even matter if it's just 11 million. These numbers are skyrocketing as we speak.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, today I come to the floor to talk about the crisis that is occurring at our southern border. Joe Biden has been president now for about 4 months. In this time, illegal immigration at the southern border has more than doubled. We are now on a pace this year alone, for the most illegal immigration in 2 decades. The numbers that we see based on last month, we're talking about 2 million people coming to America this year illegally. It seems to me that on the first day in office, President Biden signed executive orders that flipped on the green light, said, "Come to America." He rolled out the welcome mat, and he sent a clear message that our borders are open. He shut down construction of the border wall, a wall that we've actually paid to have done, to be constructed. I've been there. The parts are laying on the ground, and the workers stopped on Inauguration Day from putting up portions of the wall to close down the gaps. He stopped all deportations for 100 days. He brought back the program known as Catch and Release. And since he took these actions, and I've talked to the Border Patrol on the ground, they say the border has been overwhelmed. Now, illegal immigrants are coming from all over the world. People say, well, it's an issue between Mexico and the United States. The people coming here are coming from all over the world. The time I was there, we heard that over 50 countries have been represented in the people that have been captured, including Romania, Armenia, Bangladesh. People are flying to Mexico who can't come to the United States because of paperwork, who they are, what their intentions may be. They aren't allowed to get tickets to come to the United States. They fly to Mexico to come into the United States illegally.
So we also got people from Romania, Armenia, Bangladesh. Everybody's just coming in, right? It's a free-for-all. Whoever wants to come in, you can come in. If you can get across the border, don't worry about it. We're going to let you all in. Now, in a matter of time, in my opinion, by 2025, Joe Biden is going to pass his immigration bill that's going to make everybody citizens. It's going to provide everyone with a 8-year path to citizenship for those who are dreamers, right? The children who were brought here, when they were kids, so they didn't have a choice in the matter. If I'm not mistaken, if I remember correctly, their path to citizenship through that bill will be only 5 years, but the adults will be 8 years. Now, let me pull that up for you, because I just want to read a little bit from that article discussing that. Okay, so let me bring this right back up. And we're going to move over to, I have too many windows open. Here we go. Okay. And thankfully, the highlighted sections are still highlighted. This article right here is from the Associated Press. Biden to propose 8-year citizenship path for immigrants. Okay. President-elect Joe Biden plans to unveil a sweeping immigration bill on day one of his administration, hoping to provide an 8-year path to citizenship for an estimated 11 million people living in the United States without legal status, a massive reversal from the Trump administration's harsh immigration policies. The legislation puts Biden on track to deliver on a major campaign promise important to Latino voters and other immigrant communities after 4 years of President Donald Trump's restrictive policies and mass deportations. It provides one of the fastest pathways to citizenship for those living without legal status of any measures in recent years, but it fails to include the traditional trade-off of enhanced border security favored by many Republicans, making passage in a narrowly divided Congress in doubt. Now, let me see. Do I have anything else highlighted here before I move on? No. Okay. So let me just scroll back up a little bit so you can see this article title, okay? I'll say this much. I do find it interesting before I carry on. This article is, Biden to propose 8-year citizenship path to immigrants. But then you see, right over here, somebody holding up, Martin Luther King, somebody else with the Black Lives Matter t-shirt. That's... You know what they're trying to tell you there. That's that whole we're all immigrants narrative. Doesn't matter if your ancestors came here on the bottom of a slave ship, you're an immigrant too. But we're not going to go into that right now. We all know that's false, but that's what they're projecting to you with that. But let's talk a little bit about this article in this bill, right? Because this bill is going to pass. All right. And it's going to pass before the decade is over. Like I said before, I'll say around 2025. And I'm confident that this bill is going to pass because it has to pass, right? The dominant society's numbers are dwindling very quickly. And in order for them to preserve their dominance, they're going to have to allow some honorary members. Now, it's not the first time that they've done this. As we all know, the Italians, they weren't always white. Neither were the Irish. The Irish were not always considered white. Nobody's considered white within a dominant society until it's politically necessary. And you're watching this happen once again right in front of your face, okay? Coming back to the AAPI community, let me click back on that tab again. Let's come back over here, okay? Let's go back to this. As you can see, you have a large segment of the AAPI community whose political ideals are in complete alignment with the dominant society. This is why you saw, as soon as Joe Biden got into office, he immediately signs an executive order for them. And then in record time, like I've never seen before, a bill was introduced, passed through the Senate, and passed through Congress, and made into law to make sure to have them as a protected class. This is why they were taken care of very quickly, okay? And with all the hoopla that you're hearing about the border and, oh my gosh, it's crazy, it's out of control, the border, everybody's pouring into the country. I don't care what that Republican senator said. Understand, that's all game, okay? The beef, like I said in my last video, between Republicans or Democrat are as fake as the beef between The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin, all right? That's bread and circus, what I played for you earlier. It's not that that Republican senator wasn't telling the truth, but it's bread and circus. It's political theater, all right? They're allowing everybody to come in. They're allowing these folks to pour into the border and to come across. Like I stated and I proved to you earlier, over 50% of Hispanics identify with being white. I just proved that to you. And as soon as the government feels that they've had enough immigrants coming into the country to be able to comfortably maintain their dominance, they'll shut it down. They'll stop. And then they'll pass this bill that's in front of you right now. And everybody will be citizens within a matter of 4 to 8 years. And let me take this down off the screen right now because we're getting ready to wrap this video up. Okay? Give me just a second. Let me get myself back up here. Okay. Now, everything that I just presented to you right now is why I consistently say by 2030, politically, right? Choosing my words wisely and clearly, politically, Black Americans will be finished. Because as I've stated before in previous videos, as we speak right now, throughout the country, you have numerous cities, states, counties, wards, townships that are completely controlled by Black folks. You have the political stronghold in these areas. And with the proper organization, you can actually take control of these cities, states, counties, and wards and put in place all of the systems and the assistance that you need to properly get the Black community to where it needs to be. You have that power right now. Places like Detroit, places like Baltimore, places like Mobile, Alabama, or Mobile, Alabama, however you say it. Shout out to my brother Ayo Canseco from Mobile, Alabama. Places like that. You're in control for now. But after 2030, you won't be. Forget about what's going on nationally. Just locally, you're not going to have control in your cities, in your states, counties, and wards anymore. Because after 2030, all 22 million of those undocumented immigrants, every year, that number is going to bump up. Every year, the number of Hispanics and Asians is going to go up and up and up and up. And your numbers are going down and down and down and down. You know, this right here is unavoidable. Okay. Let's pull this up. You've all seen this before. By 2065, Black Americans will be fourth on the population list. I talk about this all the time. And what I need you to understand is that you're not going to stop this. Okay? There's nothing you can do. You can't stop it. You're not going to stop Joe Biden's immigration bill. You're not going to stop the influx of immigrants into this country. And you're not going to be able to stop the fact that you're sliding to fourth place. Okay? As you can see, by 2065, white America will be 46%, Hispanics will be 24%, Asians will be 14%, and you'll be 13%. Like I said, you're not stopping that. But while you, let me get this out the way. But while you're still in position currently, while you're still in political position to take advantage of being able to take over certain parts of your local government, you got to do that now while you still can, because you're not going to have that anymore. Like I said, forget about what's happening nationally. There needs to be a stronger emphasis on what's happening locally, because you can take over. There was I forgot what the name of the city was. It was somewhere in the South. I wish I had that article in front of me right now, but there was a city somewhere in the South. The Proud Boys literally took over the whole town. They took over the whole town legally. You know, the mayors, the chief of police, like they took over the whole city. The Proud Boys alone took it over. You can do that too. In cities like Baltimore, you can do that too. In cities like Detroit, you can do that too. And a bunch of cities in the South, you can do that too. But you're running out of time. You only have 9 years left to get it done. And if you're unable to capitalize this 9-year period within this 9-year period, it's over. Okay? I don't want to hear anything about that. Oh, people have been saying that it's going to be over and we always persevere and prevail. I tell you the truth, man. You haven't been persevering and prevailing. You haven't, because the numbers don't reflect that. As we've discussed numerous times, when by 2053, the median net worth of Black America is going to be 0, and by 2065, you're going to be fourth on the population list, what prevailing has been happening? There hasn't been any. There hasn't been any progress. They just throw representation in front of your face. And because you see LeBron James dunking a basketball and he has all these commercials and, billboards everywhere of all these Black folks, and you see Quavo and Offset and rappers and stuff all over the place, that got you thinking that you've overcome. You didn't overcome nothing. And you're on the way to becoming the permanent undercast in this country. And all you'll be able to do after 2030, like Kwame Brown, all you'll be able to do, like he says, well, he doesn't say this, but his term, go along, get along. Y'all gonna have to be go along, get along gang. Because understand, it's not about these folks. You got to get the Republican Democrat stuff out of your mind. It's not about, people immigrating here and, they're going to be conservative, so it doesn't matter. I know a lot of people that say that, they're going to have them all come here and be conservative. It doesn't, conservative, Republican, or conservative, or left, or progressive, none of that matters. Because who are the two biggest Latino and Asian politicians out right now? Andrew Yang and AOC. They're not conservative. They're progressive. And none of them, I've covered it on this channel multiple times, none of them support any policy or legislation that exclusively benefits you and addresses your needs. They do for everybody else, but when it comes to you, you get the middle finger. And we've seen that over and over again. So get that left wing, right wing, the immigrants, they're coming here, but they're going to be conservative. That doesn't matter. Whether they're conservative or so-called progressive, you're not getting anything out of the deal. And all you can do at that point after 2030 is go along, get along. That's it. You're either going to get with this people of color, minority, and marginalized group wave, or you can just be the permanent bottom caste, struggling. That's it. That's your only options at that point. Now, also, what I want to get you all to understand as well, right? after 2030, what we're going to see is a complete, I don't want to say rewriting of American history, but there's going to be a lot of new American history. Okay, that's another thing that's going over people's heads. As we speak right now, we're in the middle of a historical time. People are going to look back on this decade, and they're going to look back on this decade the same way people look at the 1950s and 60s and the civil rights movement. Okay, because what's going to happen after 2030? Let me back up. Up until this point, the history of this country has always been Native Americans, white folks, and black folks. That's what the history's been. And conversation has been around the history of these three particular groups for literally hundreds of years. Okay? That's been the conversation. That's been the history. That's been the dominant history for hundreds of years. But now, as we're living in this historical time, whether you're acknowledging it and understanding it or not, okay, we're living in a time that after this decade, they're going to start making movies and documentaries about, oh my God, the LGBTQ struggle was so crazy, but look at how they overcame. The situation at the border for Hispanics, it was so horrible, the kids in cages, and it was so atrocious, but look at how they overcame. Okay. Oh, the AAPI and the hate that they were dealing with back then just was so crazy. You see, they were walking down the street and then somebody that looked like TD for no apparent reason, bop. But look at how they overcame. All right. These are all layers that are now going on top of your history. Native American, white, black. It's been that for a long time. AAPI history, LGBTQ history, Hispanic history. You're getting drowned out. And it's not to say that the history and the negative situations that these individuals go through aren't real. I'm not saying this to discredit anybody's struggle. Okay? That's not what the point of me bringing that up is. But I'm bringing this to you so that you understand that you are drastically getting pushed down to the bottom. Okay. And your presence here in this country will be completely obsolete, inconsequential. Nobody's going to talk about you. Nothing that's happening in your community is going to matter anymore. Because you're no longer going to be, as Dr. Claude Anderson would say, the priority minority. You're not going to be that anymore. There's nothing to talk about when you're number 4th on the population list. So in order to negate these things and to prevent them from impacting you so negatively going forward in the future, you're going to have to handle business politically now. And it's a very narrow 9-year window to get it done. I personally believe that it can happen. I do. But time will tell. We'll see. Because like I've said in a previous live stream, at a certain point, these conversations are going to have to come from offline and into the streets and put into real organizing work, right? Gonna have to put the phone down and get out there and organize for real. Develop the candidates that you want to see running for a local office. Put them in, and then make sure that now that they're in office, because they're your people, they're the guys that you put in. They're now infusing the resources that you need into your community to make sure that you're stable moving forward. If not, you lost. You lost. You literally never overcame. It didn't happen. And like I discussed on Rob's channel, I believe it was last week when I was live on his channel, that's part of the game as far as human existence go. Peoples come and peoples go. You had a certain type of people or peoples that existed at one point in time. They don't exist anymore now. And as we speak, the descendants of American slavery, you're slowly being phased out. You're slowly being pushed down. You're very slowly being erased. But time flies. And 2050 will be here before you know it. 2040 will be here before you know it. 2065, when you're fourth on the population list, it'll be here before you know it. And your group will be no more. Your group will have effectively been erased. So in order to prevent that, like I said, you only have this 9-year window to really get it done politically. Because after this 9 years, all the information I presented to you, it's over, and you can't stop that. You're not going to stop it. All you can do is slow down the bleeding. Okay? That's all you can do. So with all that being said, I want to thank you all for joining me today. All right. Please make sure to hit that thumbs up button. If you haven't, before you get out of here, make sure you hit the thumbs up button. Also, make sure you hit that subscribe button as well as the bell notification next to the subscribe button so you can be notified whenever I release a new video. If you haven't done this before, please text TD Hip Hop to number 33222. That's TD Hip Hop to number 33222. That way I'll be able to send you a direct text notification whenever I release a new video. That also serves as a protection plan for myself. In case YouTube ever gives this channel the axe, I'll be able to send you a direct link to where you can find me next. And also, last but not least, for those of you who have been subscribed to this channel for quite some time now, have a love and appreciation for the work that I put in on this channel. The number one way you can show your support to me is through Patreon. For only $3 a month, that will help put me in position to be able to take TD Hip Hop Media off of YouTube. Remember, the goal is not to grow independent of YouTube. The goal is not to grow big on YouTube, but to grow independent of YouTube. And also, make sure you join the emailing list. The link is in the description below. There's no way that I can go independent of YouTube if I'm unable to take the audience with me. So with all that being said, that does it for today's show. I could go a little bit more and more on about this, but you know what? I'll say this much before I leave as well. All right. I'll say this one last thing before I go. I've been talking about, let me wipe my phone. It's getting hot in here. Good thing I'm shutting down right on time. Give me a second, please. Okay. Now, I've been discussing the fact that Black Americans are going to be done by 2030 since 2019. Okay. And it's not just because of politics and immigration. The writing was already on the wall due to artificial intelligence and automation. That was already getting ready to knock you out the box. This is what I was trying to tell folks back in 2019 and all through 2020 with my video series, Brother, Please Hear Me Out. And let me pull that up for you right now. And then I'm going to go ahead and shut this thing down. Okay. So give me just a second, because I want you to see that I've been beating this into the ground for quite some time now. I've been trying to get us to understand this for a minute now, that we're getting ready to be washed up. All right. We're getting ready to be washed. It's going to be a wrap soon. Let me pull this up for you. Here it goes right here. Okay. And then we're going to get out of here. Like I said, I've been talking about this since 2019, man. This isn't something new that I'm saying because it's edgy and it's catchy and it's provocative. Okay. As you can see right here in episode 1, Brother, Please Hear Me Out. Black Americans don't waste time. Let me make the screen bigger for you. Give me just a moment. Okay. So as you can see right here, Black Americans don't waste time. Black Americans don't waste time, part 2. Black tech revolution. You know, I'm stressing, and I was stressing in these videos, the need for us to get our tech skills up as it pertains to information technology, coding, getting involved in artificial intelligence and automation, learning about blockchain technology and all these kind of things. Look, let's go up here. I've been saying this for a long time now. Brother, Please Hear Me Out, episode 7. Black Americans will be washed by 2030. And understand, if you go back and watch these videos, I'm not just talking. I back up everything that I say with actual articles, research that's been done, data. Black Americans will be washed by 2030. What's this other article that I have up here? Episode 10, Black Americans must skill up by 2023. I've been talking about this for so long, man, trying to You can't put a stop to it, but you can slow the bleeding down and make things not so bad. And then you have the last 3 episodes that I have right here. Free educational tools for Black economic upward mobility. That's all concerning tech. Black Americans must prepare for the new economy. Episode 17 and episode 18. Free tools for Black children to survive the new economy. That was episode 18. That was the last episode that I did, I believe sometime mid or late 2020, right? But I've been pounding the pavement on this for a long time now. And I really, really hope that this gets taken seriously, that the message goes out, and that we do what we need to do to preserve ourselves, to preserve our communities, right? To preserve our history, our legacy, lineage. I really hope that happens. So with all that being said, that does it for today's video. Thank you for joining me. And until next time, peace.